In medieval England between 1240 and 1260, thousands of beautiful young women were forced into convents against their will, their heads shaved in public, bodies wrapped in scratchy black cloth, and spirits broken by torture disguised as devotion. Their crime? Being born to fathers who couldn't afford dowries. When a powerful man wanted to marry you, but your father was more married to ale than his duties, the convent wasn't salvation, it was a death sentence. Here's what life was really like as a forced medieval nun. So, yeah, if these stories work for you, subscribe. And I'm curious, what time is it where you are? Comment below. Last week, someone from Canada said they listened during lunch breaks. Not judging, just wasn't expecting that. Alright, medieval nuns tonight. But wait, are you comfortable? No, really, check. Pillows, blankets, the whole deal. Where we're going, you'll want to be settled. Your eyes snap open to darkness. Cold seeps into your bones from the stone floor beneath you. The scrap of old curtain you've been given as a blanket might as well be nothing against the bitter chill that fills the convent at night. Your body aches, your stomach twists with hunger, your knees still throb from kneeling on hard stone for 7 hours straight yesterday. This is your life now, the life of a medieval nun in 1240, and you never chose it. Wind howls through the cracks in the stone walls. Rats scurry somewhere nearby, and honestly, you're jealous of them. At least they have fur. At least they can find food. You reach up instinctively to push hair from your face, but your hand finds only the rough stubble of your shaved head. God, you miss your hair. Your hand traces the unfamiliar landscape of your scalp, and you remember the day they took it from you. The day everything changed. You were 15, the second youngest of 5 daughters born to a father who loved ale more than anything else in this world. Maybe he loved you too, in his own strange way. You'd like to believe that, but love doesn't put food on the table. Love doesn't save enough silver for 5 dowries. And when you're born a girl in medieval England, your options are marriage or the church. That's it. Those are the choices. And both require someone to pay. She's the most beautiful girl in the village, you'd heard people whisper. And it was true. By 15, your long hair had grown thick and lustrous. Your eyes were bright, your skin unmarked by disease or hardship, a miracle in itself. And people noticed, including a general in the king's army. You can still picture his face, the way he looked at you in the market that day. Not like you were meat, exactly. More like you were a horse he was considering buying. Assessing your worth, your breeding potential, he spoke to your father that very afternoon. "I want her for my wife," the general announced, standing in your tiny home. His boots probably cost more than everything your family owned. "She'll make strong sons. She's got good hips." You think about this memory often, lying here in the dark, the way they discussed you. Not a person, but a possession. Still, a general's wife's silk dresses, meat with every meal, a warm bed. Your father's face had lit up until the general's family named their price. "They want how much for dowry?" your father had sputtered later that night, drunk as usual. "Silver enough to sink a ship." Your older sisters were already married off, each dowry smaller than the last as your father's drinking drained what little money came in. By the time your turn arrived, the barrel was empty. The general's family wouldn't budge on the price. That's when your father heard the whispers. The church was secretly paying families to take their young daughters as nuns. Not much, but enough for several months of ale. "The general will find another pretty face," your father said, kissing your forehead that last night in your home. "God will take care of you, love, and with this silver, I'll take care of myself." You blink back to the present, to the cold stone beneath you. The moonlight filtering through a narrow window catches on something shiny across the room, a brass tray one of the older nuns uses for washing. You remember seeing your reflection in it that first day. The shock of your shorn head, your beauty stolen in one cruel hour. The churchmen had come at dawn. No warning, no chance to say proper goodbyes. They dragged you out into the village square where everyone could see. "Wait, what's happening?" you asked, your voice small as neighbours gathered to watch. The churchman's voice boomed for all to hear. "This girl gives herself to God, but you hadn't given yourself to anyone. You'd been sold. Hold her," one said, and rough hands gripped your shoulders as another produced a knife. You still remember the sound, the soft, terrible whisper of the blade against your scalp, the weight of your hair as it fell in piles at your feet. Women in the crowd gasped. Some looked away, others stared, their eyes a mixture of pity and relief that it wasn't their daughter. This is happening too fast, you thought. This can't be real. But it was, and it was just the beginning. They shoved you into a rough black cloth that smelled like mould and old sweat. It scratched against your skin, so different from the simple but soft dress you'd worn your whole life. The coarse fabric felt like punishment against your skin, which, you'd soon learn, was exactly the point. You caught your reflection in that brass tray when they first brought you to the convent. A stranger stared back. Gone was the village beauty. In her place, this creature, pale, shorn, scared. When they first showed you to your quarters, you couldn't believe it. No bed, just a corner of a stone room shared with 3 other new initiates. No pillow, no blanket, just that scrap of old curtain. You thought about running that first night, but where would you go? Your father had the church's silver now, likely already spent on ale. The village would turn you away, a disgraced almost nun with a shaved head. No one would marry you now. No one would help you. So you stayed, and you learned. The Mother Superior, a woman whose face looked like it had never known a smile, laid out your new life with cold precision. "You wake at 4 with the bell," she said, her voice like stone against stone. "Prayer until sunrise, then work, then more prayer, then more work. You speak only when spoken to. You eat only what and when we tell you." You nodded, numb. "Do you think this is harsh?" she asked, noticing your expression. "No, Mother," you whispered, though of course you did. "Good, because this isn't the harshness." Her thin lips curved into something almost like a smile. "This is the mercy." You'd learn she was right about that. These were the easy rules, the ones they told you up front. What they didn't mention was how senior nuns would kick you awake if the bell didn't rouse you, how they'd withhold food for minor infractions like looking up during prayer, how your knees would split open from kneeling on stone for hours. Your first real shock came that very first day, after the head shaving, after being dressed in your new rough clothes, after being shown your bare corner of stone floor. You thought at least there would be some spiritual introduction, some prayers or hymns or whatever it was nuns did. Instead, the priest shoved a stiff brush into your hands. "All scrub the entire church floor by tonight," he ordered, gesturing to the vast nave stretching before you, endless stone slabs. "God sees your effort, don't disappoint him." You stared at the massive space, the cold stone stretching farther than your family's entire home. "All of it? By myself?" The slap came so quickly you didn't see it coming. Your cheeks stung as the priest's voice lowered to a growl. "Questioning is pride. Pride is sin. Begin now." So, you did. You scrubbed until your back screamed in agony, until your hands blistered and then bled, until your knees were raw against the stone. Hours passed. The sun moved across the windows. Your stomach growled. You hadn't eaten since the previous night at home. When darkness fell, you finally finished, your body trembling with exhaustion. You could barely stand. The priest returned, walking slowly across your freshly scrubbed floor, inspecting it with cold eyes. He stopped, pointed to a corner far from any light source. "You missed a spot." You squinted in the darkness. "I don't see." Another slap, harder this time. "Amateur work," he said flatly. "Do better next time. Wake at 4 tomorrow morning. No excuses." You collapsed onto your stone corner that night, too exhausted even to cry. Your body throbbed with pain. Your hands bled onto the rough black cloth they'd given you to wear. "Is it always like this?" you whispered to one of the other new girls sharing your quarters. Her eyes, hollow already, though she'd only been there 2 weeks longer than you, told you everything. "This is the rule," she whispered back. "And there are worse ones you haven't learned yet." Sleep, when it finally came, was more like passing out, a brief mercy before the bell would ring again and the whole brutal cycle would start anew. And this was only your first day as a medieval nun. You're jolted from these memories by a sound in the darkness. Footsteps in the corridor, your body tenses. Night visitors never bring anything good. You pull your scrap of curtain tighter around you, trying to become invisible against the wall as the footsteps grow closer, then pass by your door. You release a breath you didn't realize you were holding. Not for you, not tonight. But you've been here 2 weeks now, and you're learning that in this place it's only a matter of time before your turn comes for whatever new cruelty they've devised in the name of God. The cold seeps deeper into your bones as you curl tighter into yourself. Tomorrow will come too soon with its bells and prayers and endless work. Sleep is the only escape you have left. You close your eyes, wondering how your father sleeps at night, whether he thinks of you at all, whether the ale he bought with your freedom was worth it. As you drift off, one thought circles in your mind. What fresh hell will tomorrow bring? The bell rings like death itself, a harsh clanging sound that rips through your dreams and drags you violently back to reality. 4 in the morning, pitch black, cold that makes your teeth chatter. You've only been asleep for what, 3 hours? 4? Not enough. Never enough. Your body screams in protest as you force yourself to move. Every muscle aches from yesterday's labour. Your hands are raw, blistered from the harsh brush and lye soap. Your knees throb from hours pressed against stone. But you can't be late. Not again. Sister Agnes was late yesterday, just by minutes. You all watched as they made her kneel on dried peas in the corner all day, rosary beads cutting into her fingers as she repeated prayers until her voice gave out. "Move, girl." A senior nun stands in the doorway, her face a pale oval in the darkness. She carries a thin switch, tapping it against her palm. You felt it sting before. Chapel, now. The 4 of you scramble up from your stone corners. No time to adjust your clothes or rub feeling back into frozen limbs. Just stumble out into the dark corridor, following the bobbing lantern ahead. In your head, you're like, what kind of god wants worship at 4 in the damn morning when it's too dark to even see his supposed creation? But you keep that thought buried deep. Thoughts like that earn worse than the switch. The chapel is somehow colder than your sleeping quarters. Massive stone walls trap the night chill, hold it close like a lover. Candles offer more shadow than light. You find your spot among the rows of black-clad figures. 23 nuns in total. Some old, arrived as girls decades ago, their faces carved with permanent frowns. Some new like you, still adjusting to this brutal life. You think they'd let you ease into things, a gradual introduction to nun life. Nope, they throw you straight into the deep end. Swim or drown. Mostly drown, kneeling begins immediately. Not comfortable kneeling on cushions, bare knees on stone. The already formed scabs from yesterday break open again. You feel warm blood trickle down your shins. The prayers start. Latin words that mean nothing to you. Hours of them. Endless streams of sounds you're supposed to repeat but can't understand. The abbot's voice drones on and on and on. His eyes scan the rows, looking for drooping heads, for signs of weakness. Ora pro nobis, they chant. Ora pro nobis, you mumble back, having no idea what you're saying. Your head spins from hunger. Yesterday's meal was a thin gruel and a crust of bread, barely enough to keep a bird alive. Your stomach cramps painfully. The senior nuns told you that hunger brings you closer to God, that suffering is holy. Feels like bullshit if you're being honest. The morning light finally begins to filter through the high windows. One tiny mercy. It means the morning prayers are almost done. 7 hours of kneeling and chanting and trying not to pass out. 7 hours closer to heaven, they say. Feels more like 7 hours closer to the grave. As the first real light touches the chapel floor, you notice something. An apple, sitting near the altar, catching the pale sunlight. Your stomach clenches violently at the sight. When was the last time you had fresh fruit? You can't even remember. The priests and senior nuns have food like this. Real food. You've seen them eating in their private quarters. Meat, cheese, bread that isn't mouldy, wine. But for new initiates, scraps, punishment rations, fasting for purification. The abbot finally signals the end of morning prayers. The nuns rise stiffly, bones cracking, suppressed groans as circulation returns to aching legs. You stand too quickly and nearly faint, black spots dancing in your vision. Sister Millicent beside you doesn't rise fast enough. The abbess is on her immediately. Lazy in devotion, lazy in spirit, she hisses, grabbing the girl's ear and twisting hard. Extra prayers tonight for you. And just like that, another 12 hours of kneeling added to someone's torment. You move with the others toward the doorway, but as you pass near the altar, that apple calls to you like a beacon. Without thinking, honest to God, without any actual thought, your hand reaches out trembling. The smack is so sharp and sudden that you yelp. Mother Agnes, the oldest and cruelest of the senior nuns, stands beside you, ruler in hand, your fingers stinging from the blow. No food, she says, voice like gravel. 3-day water fast for new nuns. You must purify. She leans closer, her breath sour. It's our tradition. 3 days? You've already barely eaten since arriving. Your legs feel like they might give out at the very thought. But you start to protest. Then catch yourself. Too late. Mother Agnes's eyes narrow to slits. You question the holy ways. She raises her voice so all can hear. Our newest sister thinks herself above our sacred traditions. All eyes turn to you, some with judgment, some with pity, some with the dead emptiness of those who've been here too long to care. No, mother, you whisper. I was merely silence. Her bony finger points to a spot before the altar. Kneel there. Contemplate your pride. No water today either. So you kneel. What choice do you have? Kneel as the rest file out to breakfast. Such as it is, kneel as the sun climbs higher, casting rainbow patterns through the stained glass. Kneel as your empty stomach twists and cramps and your parched throat begs for relief. Hours pass this way. The stone beneath your knees no longer hurts. It's gone numb. Small blessings. Footsteps behind you. You don't turn. You've learned that much. You're the new one, a voice says, younger than Mother Agnes, not unkind exactly, but careful. The pretty one from the village. You say nothing, eyes fixed on the crucifix ahead. She moves into view, maybe 30, with tired eyes, but a face not yet hardened into permanent disapproval. Sister Beatrice, she says. "I oversee the infirmary." You nod slightly, unsure if you're permitted to speak. "You may respond," she says with a hint of a smile. "Yes, Sister Beatrice." Your voice comes out raspy from thirst. She glances around, then quickly presses something into your hand. "A small cup of water. Drink it fast," she whispers. "They'll be back soon." You gulp it gratefully, the warm, slightly metallic taste, the most wonderful thing you've ever experienced. You almost weep with gratitude. "Why?" you dare to ask as you hand the cup back. Her smile turns sad. "I was you once. Beautiful, young, forced here against my will." She takes the cup, hides it in the folds of her habit. It doesn't get easier, but you learn to survive. And then she's gone, silent steps carrying her away before you can thank her properly. The rest of the day passes in a haze of hunger and thirst. The kneeling punishment lasts until Vespers, evening prayers. By then, you can barely stand. Your knees are bleeding freely, your head pounds, and the world tilts dangerously when you finally rise. "That's just day 1 of your fast," Mother Agnes says as she walks past. "2 more to go. Perhaps now you'll learn." You stumble through evening prayers, mouth-forming words your brain can't process. When you're finally released to your sleeping quarters, you collapse onto your stone corner, too exhausted even to arrange your scrap of curtain properly. One of the other new nuns, Mary, who arrived just days before you, edges closer. "First punishment fast," she whispers, careful not to be overheard. You nod weakly. "They watch at night," she murmurs, "but I've saved this." From somewhere in her habit, she produces a small crust of bread, hard as stone, but bread nonetheless. Hide it until deep night. Eat it when the patrol passes. You take it with trembling fingers. "Why help me?" Her eyes, already hollowing from weeks here, meet yours. "Because they want us broken and alone. The only way to survive is together." You clutch the bread like the treasure it is, tucking it into your own habit. The small act of kindness nearly breaks you. After days of cruelty, the simplest human decency feels overwhelming. The night is even colder than the one before, or maybe it's just that your body has fewer reserves to fight it. The wind still howls through the cracks, but now it seems to blow straight through you, as if your solid form is fading, becoming as insubstantial as your former life. You wait, listening to the rhythm of the convent at night, the patrols of senior nuns checking for rule breakers, the distant snores from the priest's comfortable quarters, the occasional whimper or sob from other new initiates. When the corridor is silent and dark, you retrieve Mary's gift. The bread is so hard you have to suck on it to soften it enough to eat. It tastes of dust and mould, but in this moment it's the finest feast imaginable. As you savour each tiny morsel, you notice something by the narrow window, moonlight catching on something metal. You edge closer, curious. It's a nail, old, rusty, sticking out from the window frame, but what captures your attention is what's carved into the stone wall beside it. Names. Dozens of them. Small, carefully scratched letters. Some fresh, some faded with time. You run your fingers over them in the darkness. Girls like you, forced here. Some survived, you suppose? Some probably didn't. You decide in that moment that you'll survive, that whatever it takes, you won't let them break you completely. Your name will not be just another fading mark on a hidden wall. The next morning arrives with the same cruel bell, the same stumbling in darkness, the same hours of kneeling. Your second day of the fast is worse than the first. Your head spins constantly now. Standing makes you dizzy. Your thoughts come slower, muddier. But there's work after prayers, always work, no rest for the holy. Today, it's laundry, massive cauldrons of boiling water, harsh lye soap that burns your already raw hands. The steam at least provides some warmth, but the labour is backbreaking. Hauling water, scrubbing the priest's clothes and altar linens, wringing heavy wet fabric with arms that feel like they might snap from weakness. Sister Clara, overseeing the laundry, is less openly cruel than Mother Agnes, but she works you without mercy nonetheless. Faster, she keeps saying. The Lord's work doesn't wait for weak hands. You're paired with an older nun for the hardest parts, Sister Martha, who's been here 20 years. Her hands are permanently red and chapped, fingers gnarled like tree roots. Arrived when I was 14, she tells you during a rare moment when Sister Clara steps away. Family needed the money, 7 brothers to feed. Does it get better? You ask, voice barely above a whisper. Her laugh holds no humour. You get numb to it, not better. She glances to ensure you're still unobserved. The trick is to find the small freedoms. They can control your body, but not what's in here. She taps her temple. I go on journeys in my mind during prayers. Sail across oceans. Visit Constantinople. They'll never know. It's a strange comfort, but a comfort nonetheless. The idea that some small part of yourself might remain yours alone. By midday, you're swaying on your feet. The lack of food and water, combined with the heavy labour, has pushed your body to its limits. The room tilts and spins. The hot steam becomes suffocating. I need, you begin, but can't finish the thought. The stone floor rushes up to meet you. You wake to cold water being splashed on your face. Sister Clara stands over you, looking more annoyed than concerned. Weak body, weak faith, she says. Up, there's work yet to be done. But you literally can't stand. Your body simply refuses the command. 2 days without food, minimal water, hours of physical labour. It's too much. Sister Martha steps forward. She needs the infirmary, Sister Clara. She's no use to God dead. Sister Clara looks like she might argue, but ultimately nods sharply. Take her then. But she returns to work tomorrow, fast or no fast. Martha helps you up, supporting your weight as you stumble from the laundry to the infirmary. The corridor spins around you, darkness threatening the edges of your vision. The infirmary is marginally warmer than the rest of the convent. Small mercies. Sister Beatrice, the nun who gave you water yesterday, looks up as Martha half carries you in. Fasting collapse, Martha explains, helping you onto a narrow cot, an actual cot with a thin straw mattress that feels like heaven after stone floors. Beatrice nods, immediately moving to check your pulse. Second day, yes, they push too hard with the new ones lately. She turns to Martha. I'll take her. You should return before Clara reports you both. Martha squeezes your hand briefly before departing. Another small kindness to treasure. Beatrice waits until you're alone, then produces a cup of something that smells herbal and slightly sweet. Drink slowly. You take it with trembling hands. But the fast is between you and God, she says firmly, and God doesn't want dead nuns. This is willow bark tea with honey. It will help your strength without breaking your fast too obviously. The warm liquid is bliss as it slides down your parched throat. The slight sweetness makes your empty stomach clench with need. As you sip, you take in the infirmary, shelves of herbs and tinctures, a small fire in the hearth, the only room besides the abbot's quarters you've seen with one, 3 other cots, empty at present. Why are you kind to me? You ask Beatrice. Won't you be punished? She adjusts a blanket over your legs. A real blanket, not a scrap of curtain. The infirmary is my domain. I answer to God and the abbot for the health of our sisters. She sits beside the cot. And yes, I remember my own first days here, 20 years ago now. 20 years, you echo, unable to imagine enduring this life for so long. I was 14. My father lost our home to gambling. The church offered him silver. Her voice is matter-of-fact, as if discussing the weather rather than the selling of a child. I fought at first. We all do. What changed? I found purpose in healing. It's the one true Christian work in this place. Her eyes hold a quiet defiance. The rest, the punishment, the starvation, the breaking of spirit, that's not God's work. That's men using God's name for control. It's the most heretical thing you've heard since arriving. You glance nervously at the door. Beatrice smiles sadly. Don't worry, this room is safe for truth. Out there. She gestures toward the door. Out there you must be what they demand. Silent, obedient, broken. You finish the tea, feeling a small measure of strength returning. Rest, she says, taking the cup. I'll tell them you need until tomorrow to recover. It won't break your fast schedule. She leaves you alone then. The cot, though hardly luxurious, feels like a cloud after nights on stone. The small blanket holds warmth your body had forgotten was possible. You drift, not quite sleeping but not fully awake either, floating in the strange limbo of extreme exhaustion and hunger. Voices outside the door pull you back to awareness. Beatrice and someone else, a man's voice, the abbot. She's weak, he's saying, perhaps not suitable for our order. She's strong, Father, Beatrice counters. Her body simply needs adjustment to our ways. 3 have died this winter already. We cannot afford burial rites for more failures. Died? Your blood runs cold. They've worked girls to death? She'll recover, Beatrice insists. By tomorrow, I stake my position on it. A pause. See that she does. Our benefactors expect results from their donations. Benefactors. Donations. The words swim in your exhausted mind. Your father received silver, yes, but it seems the church is running a business here, taking unwanted girls, working them to death, all while collecting donations from their families. The door opens and closes. You quickly shut your eyes, feigning sleep. Footsteps approach your cot. I know you're awake, Beatrice says softly, and that you heard. You open your eyes. They let girls die? Her face is grim. Not intentionally, but yes, the young ones, the delicate ones. The regime is too harsh. Pneumonia, starvation, work injuries. There are many ways to die here, and the families never know. They're told their daughters died in Christ's service. A holy death. The bitterness in her voice is subtle but unmistakable. Most never ask questions. You try to imagine your father receiving news of your death. Would he mourn or simply order another ale with the silver he received for you? Will I die here? The question slips out before you can stop it. Beatrice's hand finds yours, surprisingly warm. Not if I can help it, but surviving here requires more than just physical strength. It requires, she searches for the word, adaptation, learning which rules must be obeyed absolutely and which have flexibility. Like drinking tea during a fast, you say. Her smile is quick. Exactly. Teach me, you whisper. Please, I want to survive. She squeezes your hand once, then stands. Rest now. Tomorrow, you return to their world of rules and punishment. But remember, there are pockets of mercy even in the cruelest places. Find them. Create them when you can. As she turns to leave, you ask one more question. The girls who died, what happened to them? Beatrice pauses at the door. They're buried behind the north wall. No markers, no prayers. Her voice drops even lower. The church doesn't waste ceremony on failures. She leaves you then, alone with the weight of this new knowledge. Not just a prison, this place, but potentially a grave. The carved names on your dormitory wall take on new meaning, perhaps not just a record of those who passed through, but a desperate attempt to ensure they wouldn't be completely forgotten. You close your eyes, feeling the softness of the cot beneath you, knowing it's a brief respite before returning to stone floors and endless labour. Tomorrow you'll go back to the fast, to the punishment, to the regime designed to break your spirit. But something has shifted inside you. A determination hardens. You will learn the rules of survival here. You will find the small mercies, the hidden pockets of humanity. You will adapt. Because the alternative is becoming just another nameless grave behind the north wall, and that, you decide as exhaustion finally pulls you into sleep, is not going to be your story. You're jolted awake by Sister Beatrice gently shaking your shoulder. The small comfort of the infirmary cot makes the awakening even crueler, a brief taste of something almost human before returning to stone floors and empty stomachs. "It's time," she whispers. "Mother Agnes will be making her rounds soon. You need to be back in your dormitory before she notices your absence." The infirmary is dark, lit only by a single candle. Through the narrow window you can see it's still night, maybe an hour or two before the dreaded 4 o'clock bell. "Thank you," you whisper, swinging your legs off the cot. Your body still feels hollow and weak, but the few hours on an actual surface with a real blanket have restored something in you. Not strength exactly, but perhaps resolve. Beatrice presses something into your hand, a small bundle wrapped in cloth. "Dried apple and a crust of bread," she murmurs. "Hide it well. Take tiny bits when truly desperate. It could mean the difference between surviving your fast or joining the unmarked graves." The bundle disappears into your habit before you even consider the risk she's taking. "Why do you help me?" In the candlelight, her face shows a weariness earned through decades of convent life. "Because once someone helped me, and because someday you'll help someone else." She touches your cheek briefly. "That's how we survive this place." Small mercies passed hand to hand in darkness. She guides you through silent corridors, the stones cold beneath your bare feet. The convent at night feels both more threatening and more honest, the pious facade stripped away to reveal the prison it truly is. You reach your dormitory undetected. The other girls are shapeless bundles in corners, their breathing the only sound. You settle into your spot, arranging your pitiful scrap of curtain. "Did they beat you?" Mary whispers from her corner, so quietly you almost miss it. "Oh no," you whisper back. "Infirmary. Beatrice helped me." A tiny exhale of relief. "Good. Mother Agnes wanted you punished more, but the abbot said no more dead novices this winter." The casual way she says it chills you more than the stone floor. Dead novices, like it's expected, normal. "Sleep," you tell her. "Bell comes soon." And it does, far too soon. The familiar clanging that's already becoming the soundtrack to your nightmares. Your body protests rising, muscles stiff from the brief return to your stone corner after the relative luxury of the infirmary cot. Today marks your 3rd day of fasting. The hunger has changed now, no longer a sharp pain, but a hollow emptiness, a lightheadedness that makes the world seem slightly unreal. Your lips are cracked from thirst, your tongue feels swollen in your mouth. Morning prayers blur together, Latin words flowing over you while you focus simply on remaining upright. Several times you catch yourself swaying, vision going grey at the edges. Each time you pinch your arm hard, using pain to stay conscious. You're not the only one struggling. Among the 20-odd black-robed figures, at least 3 others are on punishment fasts of various durations. One girl, Catherine, you think her name is, suddenly crumples halfway through the service, hitting the stone floor with a sickening thud. No one moves to help her. The prayers continue uninterrupted as though nothing happened. The abbot's eyes flick to the fallen girl, then away, his monotonous Latin chanting never faltering. Finally, after what seems an eternity, 2 senior nuns drag Catherine's limp form from the chapel. You never see where they take her. The service simply continues, the gap in the line of kneeling figures the only evidence she was ever there. What happens to her now? You dare to whisper to the nun beside you. The girl, Margaret, an 18-year-old who's been here 6 months, barely moves her lips as she responds. Depends if she wakes, infirmary if she's lucky, north wall if she's not. The matter-of-fact way she speaks of death here makes your blood run cold. 6 months ago, Margaret probably looked like you, a normal girl with hopes and dreams. Now she discusses a peer's potential death with all the emotion of commenting on the weather. Is that what this place does? Hollows you out until nothing human remains? After prayers comes your work assignment. Today, it's the kitchen gardens. Under normal circumstances, this might be considered a desirable task, fresh air, less direct supervision. But in your weakened state, digging frozen ground feels like torture. Sister Joan oversees the gardens, an ancient nun with a perpetual squint and hands like gnarled tree roots. She assesses your condition with one glance. Last day of fasting, yes? You'll be useless. She thrusts a small hand rake at you. Weed the herb beds. Try not to fall face first into them. It's not kindness exactly, but it's less cruelty than you've come to expect. The herb beds at least require kneeling rather than standing, reducing the chance you'll faint again. The winter sun offers little warmth as you work the frozen earth. Your fingers quickly go numb, your empty stomach cramps periodically, but there's a strange peace in the mindless task, in being outside the oppressive convent walls, in the simple act of caring for living things. You're the new village girl, aren't you? The pretty one? The voice startles you. A young novice, maybe 14, has approached silently. I was, you say, touching your shorn head self-consciously. Not anymore. The girl kneels beside you, picking up a spare tool to help with the weeding. I'm Elizabeth. Been here 3 months. Her voice drops. Is it true a general wanted to marry you? The question catches you off guard. Gossip, it seems, travels even in silent convents. Yes, but my father couldn't pay the dowry. Elizabeth works beside you, her movements quick and efficient. My family had 7 children, not enough food. Mother Superior told my parents I'd be educated, that I might even learn to read. A bitter smile crosses her young face. I've learned a lot of Latin prayers. Can't tell you what any of them mean. Why are you talking to me? You ask, glancing nervously towards Sister Joan, who appears to be dozing in a patch of weak sunlight. Won't you be punished? Garden duty has advantages, Elizabeth says with a small shrug. Joan's old, half-blind, sleeps more than she watches. She pulls a weed with particular viciousness. You have to find the gaps in their system, the moments when they're not watching. That's how you stay sane. It's the same thing Beatrice suggested, finding small freedoms within the rigid structure of convent life. How do you do it? You ask. Survive here? Elizabeth's face loses its childlike quality for a moment, revealing someone much older in spirit than in years. I pretend I'm someone else, a queen, maybe, or a character from the stories my grandmother told. I'm just playing a part, saying the lines. None of it is really happening to me. The girl's wisdom stuns you. While you've been fighting against your captivity, she's found a way to mentally escape it. And I remember, she continues, voice barely above a whisper, this isn't forever. What do you mean? Her eyes meet yours, something dangerous flickering in them. People leave, sometimes. Ways out exist. Before you can ask more, Sister Joan stirs from her doze. Elizabeth immediately shifts away, resuming her weeding in silence, head bowed appropriately. You ponder her words as you work. Ways out exist. What ways? Escape seems impossible. Where would you go with a shaved head, wearing a nun's habit, with no money and no protection? Death is certainly an exit, but not one you're eager to take. What other options could there be? The winter day passes slowly. Your fast means you miss the midday meal, forced to watch as the other nuns file into the refectory while you remain in the garden, permitted only sips of water. By afternoon your hands are raw from cold and work, your head spinning from hunger. When the bell finally signals the end of work period, you can barely stand. 3 days without food has taken its toll. Your legs tremble beneath you as you put away the garden tools. Sister Joan appears beside you, her ancient face unreadable. Without a word, she presses something into your palm. A small piece of hard cheese, not much bigger than your thumb. Eat it now, she mutters, where no one sees. Fast ends at sunset. This just hurries it along a bit. You stare at her in shock. Another small mercy from the most unexpected source. Why? You manage to ask. The old woman's face remains impassive. 50 years I've been here, watched too many young ones die because old bitches like Agnes think starvation brings holiness. She nods at the cheese. Eat before I change my mind. You don't hesitate further. The cheese is dry and salty, but it's the most exquisite thing you've ever tasted. You have to stop yourself from groaning with pleasure as you chew it slowly, savouring every morsel. Thank you, you whisper when it's gone. Joan's only response is a slight nod before she shuffles away, calling out to another novice about improperly stored tools. The incident strikes you deeply. Beatrice in the infirmary, Mary with her saved bread crust, Elizabeth in the garden, now Joan with her secret cheese. Small acts of rebellion and kindness in a place designed to crush both. As you make your way to evening prayers, you realise that the convent contains 2 parallel worlds, the official one of rigid rules and punishments, and the hidden one of tiny mercies passed between women trying to help each other survive. The abbot awaits in the chapel, flanked by Mother Agnes. Your 3-day fast is formally ended with a ceremony that feels more like humiliation than spiritual cleansing. You must kneel before them, confess your sin of gluttony, though the irony of this after 3 days without food isn't lost on you, and promise to better control your earthly appetites. Your fast is complete, the abbot intones. May your spirit be purified through your body's suffering. Mother Agnes looks almost disappointed that you survived the ordeal without further collapse. Her thin lips press together in disapproval as the abbot permits you to join the others for the evening meal. The meal itself is hardly a feast. Thin vegetable soup, a small piece of dark bread, and a cup of watered-down ale. But after 3 days of nothing, it might as well be a royal banquet. You force yourself to eat slowly, knowing that devouring it quickly could make you sick after such prolonged fasting. You're hyper-aware of the food's texture, its temperature, its taste. The simple act of swallowing something sustaining feels miraculous. You notice other novices watching you with a mixture of relief and envy. Relief that you survived, envy that your punishment is over while theirs continues. That night, back on your stone floor corner, you sleep deeply despite the discomfort. Your body, finally given some nourishment, surrenders to exhaustion. Days pass, then weeks. Winter deepens around the convent, snow piling against the outer walls, ice forming inside on the stone. The cold becomes another form of torture, constant, inescapable, bone deep. Your breath forms clouds in the dormitory. The chapel is so frigid that sometimes the holy water freezes in its basin. You learn the rhythms of convent life, the endless cycle of prayers, work, more prayers, fitful sleep, then prayers again. You learn which rules can never be broken, speaking during great silence, questioning the abbot's authority, and which have some flexibility. The exact duration of prayers when supervisors are absent, the occasional sharing of food. You learn which senior nuns are cruel by nature, Mother Agnes and her circle, and which simply enforce rules out of their own fear, Sister Clara and most others. You learn that the abbot visits the village prostitutes monthly while preaching about the sins of the flesh, weekly. Most importantly, you learn to create a separate self, the obedient novice who exists on the outside while your true self retreats deep within, preserved and protected. One bitterly cold morning in what must be late January, you're assigned to the scriptorium, a rare privilege usually reserved for nuns who've proven their devotion. Your task is simple, grinding pigments for the scribes who illuminate manuscripts. It's mindless work, but it's indoors, away from the biting wind, so you accept it gratefully. Sister Hildegard oversees the scriptorium, a severe woman with ink-stained fingers and surprising knowledge. You grind in circular motions, she instructs, demonstrating with the mortar and pestle. Consistent pressure, too hard ruins the pigment, too soft wastes time. You follow her guidance, working the blue stone into fine powder. The repetitive motion is almost meditative. Around you, a dozen nuns work in silence, copying texts or creating delicate illustrations. This, at least, seems like meaningful work, preserving knowledge rather than just scrubbing floors or weeding frozen gardens. You have steady hands, Hildegard comments after observing your work for a time. Perhaps you could learn illumination someday. The comment, the mere suggestion that you might have a future beyond endless punishment, startles you. I would like that, you say carefully. Hildegard's stern face softens almost imperceptibly. The mind needs occupation as much as the body needs discipline. Remember that. She moves away to check another novice's work, leaving you to ponder her words. That night, lying on your stone floor, you reflect on how much you've changed in just a month. Your body has grown thinner, but somehow stronger, adapting to reduced food and constant labour. Your knees have developed calluses from hours of prayer. Your hands have hardened from work. But the greater change is internal. You've learned to create your own private mental world while outwardly conforming. You've discovered the secret network of small kindnesses that help sustain the vulnerable. You've begun to master the art of survival in this harsh place. As if reading your thoughts, Mary shifts in her corner nearby. "You're different," she whispers, barely audible. "When you first came, I thought you'd die within a month." "I almost did," you remind her. "No." She shakes her head slightly. "The ones who die are the ones who fight it too hard or surrender too completely. You found the middle path." You ponder this. Is there really no way out except death? Mary is silent so long you think she's fallen asleep. Finally, she whispers, "There are ways, dangerous ones." "Tell me," you urge. "Some run away, though most are caught and brought back for public punishment." Her voice drops even lower. "Some find protection from powerful men, though the price is high." You think of Beatrice's warning about the higher priest. And the others? Some find purpose, like Beatrice with her healing or Hildegard with her books. They carve out small kingdoms within these walls. A pause. And some just endure, year after year, until they become Mother Agnes. The thought of becoming like the cruel old nun makes your skin crawl. I won't become that, you vow. We all say that at the beginning. Mary's voice holds a weariness beyond her years. Winter is the hardest. Spring brings opportunities. Wait and watch. Winter indeed feels endless. February brings blizzards that leave the convent isolated for days, provisions running low, temperatures dropping until even prayer becomes secondary to simply surviving the cold. You all huddle together at night now, rules about individual sleeping spaces temporarily relaxed in the face of potentially freezing to death. It's during one such blizzard night, the wind howling like demons around the convent walls, that Catherine, the girl who collapsed during your fast, begins to cough. Not an ordinary cough, but something deep and rattling that shakes her entire body. By morning, she's burning with fever. By midday, they've moved her to the infirmary. By evening, whispers circulate that she won't last the night. The speed of it terrifies everyone. One day, a healthy young woman, the next, at death's door. The convent buzzes with fearful speculation. God's judgment, Mother Agnes declares during evening prayers, for her repeated failures in devotion. But later, in the relative privacy of the dormitory, Elizabeth offers a different perspective. "It's the cold and hunger," she whispers. Her family was poor. She came here already weak. They worked her too hard, fed her too little. God had nothing to do with it. These competing narratives, divine punishment versus human cruelty, highlight the central tension of convent life. Is the suffering spiritual purification or simply abuse disguised as devotion? You visit Catherine in the infirmary when you can slip away unnoticed. Beatrice tends her constantly, but even her healing skills seem inadequate against the raging fever and cough that brings up blood. Will she survive? You ask Beatrice on your third visit. Beatrice's tired eyes meet yours. Only by God's mercy. And there seems precious little of that within these walls. The bitter comment shocks you. It's the closest to open blasphemy you've heard from anyone here. Catherine dies just before dawn the following day. They announce it matter-of-factly at morning prayers, as though reporting on the weather or the day's work assignments. Sister Catherine has returned to God's embrace, the abbot intones. Let her example remind us all that our earthly vessels are weak, but our spiritual devotion must remain strong. You watch the faces around you. Most show nothing, blank masks perfected through months or years of suppressing emotion. But a few of the newer girls have tears streaming silently down their cheeks. One, Anna, who was especially close to Catherine, seems to be physically biting her lip to keep from crying out, and something in you breaks. Not in the way they want, not your will or your spirit, but the last tenuous connection to the idea that this place serves any truly holy purpose. If God exists, you think, he cannot possibly want this, cannot desire the suffering and death of young women whose only crime was being born into families that couldn't or wouldn't keep them. You help dig Catherine's grave that afternoon. The ground is frozen solid, requiring hours of chipping away with picks before you can create a space deep enough. The work is exhausting, but you throw yourself into it, each strike of the pick fueled by a growing anger. They bury her without ceremony, no prayers beyond the standard daily ones, no marker for her grave behind the north wall, nothing to indicate that a young woman named Catherine ever lived and suffered and died here. Except that night, you take the nail you discovered by your dormitory window and scratch her name into the stone wall alongside the others. Your small act of defiance and remembrance. She was 17, whispers Anna, watching you work. Wanted to be a midwife before her family sent her here. The simple biographical detail, this fragment of who Catherine was beyond just another black-robed figure, hits you harder than her death itself. She had dreams once, hopes, a future she imagined for herself that had nothing to do with endless prayers on cold stone floors. "I won't let them forget her," you promise, finishing the last letter of her name. Anna's hand finds yours in the darkness, squeezing briefly. None of us will. As February finally yields to March, you realize you've survived your first season in the convent. Your body has changed, thinner, harder, perpetually hungry but stubbornly alive. Your mind has developed defenses, the ability to appear present during endless prayers while traveling far away in your thoughts. But most significantly, you've developed connections. Mary with her whispered warnings and advice, Elizabeth with her strategies for mental escape, Beatrice with her healing skills and secret kindnesses, even old Joan with her gruff assistance in the garden. A network of women helping each other endure. You're no longer the village beauty marked for marriage to a general. That girl is gone, her long hair lying in piles at your feet on that first terrible day. But you're not broken either, not in the way Mother Agnes and the abbot intended. Spring approaches with its promise of change, of opportunities, as Mary hinted. The coldest season is ending. You've survived what many don't, the brutal initiation into convent life. Now you need to learn how to truly live within it, and perhaps, someday, how to escape it. The first hints of spring arrive like whispered promises, tiny green shoots poking through the frozen earth, the occasional birdsong breaking the convent's oppressive silence. Days growing longer, the darkness retreating minute by minute. Your work assignments shift with the season, less time scrubbing endless floors, more time in the gardens and orchards, preparing for planting. The labour is still backbreaking, but at least it happens under open sky with fresh air filling your lungs. It's been 3 months since you arrived. Your hair has grown from completely shaved to a short, dark fuzz that covers your scalp like velvet. Not enough to be considered beautiful again, but enough to provide minimal protection from the cold. Your body has found a new equilibrium, perpetually hungry but functional, trained to survive on less than you ever thought possible. Today, you're assigned to the apple orchard, clearing winter debris from around the trees and checking for damage from the harsh frosts. Sister Joan supervises, though supervises might be generous. She mostly sits on a stone bench, dozing in the strengthening spring sunlight, occasionally barking an order when she rouses. The work suits you. There's peace in the rhythmic clearing, in watching tiny buds forming on branches that looked dead just weeks ago. Life returning, persisting despite everything. You find yourself talking to the trees sometimes, whispering encouragement when no one can hear. "You made it through winter too," you murmur to a particularly gnarled old apple tree. "We're both still here." You've developed this habit of finding meaning in small things, the way sunlight filters through bare branches, the first snowdrop pushing through frost, the brief moment of warmth when huddled with the other novices during the coldest nights. Sister Beatrice calls it collecting mercies, gathering tiny joys to sustain you through the hardships. As you work your way toward the orchard's edge, you spot something unusual near the convent's outer wall, a splash of colour against the muddy ground. Moving closer, you realise with a shock that it's a person, a boy, perhaps 12 or 13, collapsed in the melting snow. You glance back at Sister Joan, still dozing. The other novices are working in different sections, out of sight. You hesitate only a moment before approaching the wall. The boy looks half dead, lips blue, body shaking uncontrollably. His clothes are little more than rags, his feet wrapped in dirty cloth instead of shoes. The winter has not been kind to those outside the convent walls any more than those within. "Hey," you whisper, crouching beside the low stone wall that separates you. "Can you hear me?" His eyes flutter open, brown, fever-bright, terrified. He tries to scramble away but lacks the strength. "Don't," he manages, teeth chattering. "Don't call the guards." "I won't," you promise. "What happened to you?" He shakes his head weakly. "Village, sickness took everyone. No food, tried to reach next town." His voice is barely audible. "So cold. You've heard rumours of a fever sweeping nearby villages. The convent has remained isolated, protected by its walls and strict rules against outside contact. This boy has clearly been walking for days, starving and freezing, with nowhere to go." "Wait here," you tell him, though it's a foolish thing to say. He clearly isn't going anywhere. "I'll be back." You return to your work area, mind racing. The boy needs food, warmth, shelter. The Christian thing would be to bring him inside, to care for him until he recovers. But you know with absolute certainty that the convent will not open its gates. Mother Agnes speaks often of the contamination of the outside world and the need to maintain spiritual purity through isolation. Your eyes fall on the small storeroom at the edge of the orchard where winter apples are kept, the last of the previous year's harvest, carefully preserved in straw, meant to sustain the convent until new crops can be harvested. You really shouldn't, and yet... Sister Joan's snores reach you from her bench. The other novices remain out of sight. With a silent prayer for forgiveness, or perhaps for not getting caught, you slip into the storeroom. The apples are wrinkled now, past their prime, but still edible. You grab 3, stuffing them into the folds of your habit, and quickly exit. Your heart pounds as you return to the wall. The boy hasn't moved, but his eyes track you weakly. "Here," you whisper, passing the first apple through a gap in the stones. He stares at it like it's made of gold, hands trembling as he takes it. The first bite seems to require all his remaining strength, but as the sweet flesh hits his tongue, something changes in his face. A spark of life returns. You pass the second apple through, then the third. He devours them all, colour gradually returning to his blue-tinged lips. "Thank you," he whispers when he's finished. "Sister, you've saved me." The word "saved" hits you strangely. You haven't saved anyone or anything since entering these walls. You've been entirely focused on your own survival. This small act of mercy feels foreign, like exercising a muscle long disused. "What's your name?" you ask. "Thomas," he says. His voice already sounds stronger. "From Millfield Village. Rest here," you tell him, glancing nervously toward the orchard. "I'll try to bring more food later, and maybe a blanket." He nods, eyes already looking less desperate. "God bless you, sister." You slip back toward your work area, carefully checking that no one has noticed your absence. Sister Joan still dozes. The other novices remain scattered through the orchard, focused on their own tasks. You pick up your rake and resume clearing debris, heart still racing, but with an unfamiliar feeling expanding in your chest. It takes a moment to recognize it as something like joy. Your task complete, you return with the others for midday prayers, then the sparse midday meal. Throughout the endless Latin chanting, your mind keeps returning to the boy by the wall, Thomas from Millfield. You wonder if he's still there, if the apples gave him enough strength to continue his journey to the next town. You wonder if he has anyone left in the world. When afternoon work assignments are distributed, you volunteer quickly for the laundry, not because you enjoy the steam and back-breaking labour, but because the laundry gives access to the storerooms where extra blankets are kept. One small threadbare blanket would hardly be missed. Sister Clara oversees the laundry with her usual grim efficiency. The work is demanding, hauling water, stoking fires to heat massive cauldrons, scrubbing the heavy black habits and rough linens. But the steam-filled room is warm, and the noise of water and scrubbing makes conversation possible without being overheard. "You're unusually eager today," Mary comments as you work side by side, arms deep in soapy water. You hesitate, then decide to trust her. "There's a boy," you whisper, "outside the orchard wall, half dead from cold and hunger." Mary's hands still momentarily. "And you helped him?" You nod. Her eyes dart around, ensuring no one is listening. "They'd punish you severely for that. Outside contact is forbidden, especially with males." "I know, but he was dying." Mary studies your face. "You gave him food?" "Apples from the storeroom." She resumes scrubbing, her voice dropping even lower. "The apples are counted. If Agnes suspects even one missing, she'll have the novices searched. Your blood runs cold." "Counted? All of them?" "Everything here is counted, measured, controlled." Mary's face is grim. "That's how they maintain power, through absolute control of every resource." You scrub harder, mind racing. "He needed help. I couldn't just let him die." Mary's expression softens slightly. "No, you couldn't, because despite everything they've done to you here, they haven't killed that part of you yet." She glances towards Sister Clara, then adds, "Be careful. Mercy is punished more harshly than defiance in this place." The afternoon passes in anxious labour. When the work period ends, you manage to slip a small threadbare blanket into your habit as the linens are being put away. The bulge is noticeable, but you keep your arms crossed over your chest, hoping no one pays close attention. Evening prayers, the sparse dinner, then the final prayers before sleep. Each minute drags as you wait for your chance to return to the orchard. The convent observes strict rules about movement after dark. Novices are forbidden from leaving their dormitories except to use the privy. Being caught elsewhere means certain punishment, but you've learned the patterns of the night patrols, the timing of the watch changes. When the convent bells strike 9, you slip from your sleeping corner. Mary gives you a warning look but doesn't try to stop you. The other novices pretend not to notice. Another small mercy in this place of supposed virtue. The corridors are dark, illuminated only by occasional wall sconces. You keep to the shadows, freezing in place when you hear footsteps, moving again when silence returns. The route to the orchard takes you past the chapel, the refectory, through the kitchen gardens, and finally to the small side door that leads to the orchard grounds. It's locked, of course, but weeks ago Elizabeth showed you the loose stone beside the door frame where an ancient key is hidden. "For emergencies," she'd said with a meaningful look. You'd wondered then what constituted an emergency in a convent. Now you know. The night air is cold, but not bitter, spring softening winter's edge. The quarter moon provides just enough light to navigate between the apple trees toward the outer wall where you last saw Thomas. "Hello?" you whisper, approaching the spot. "Thomas, are you there?" For a moment, there's no response and your heart sinks. Perhaps he left. Perhaps the apples weren't enough. Perhaps, "Sister?" His voice comes weakly from the shadows. "You came back." Relief floods through you. "I brought you a blanket," you say, pushing it through the gap in the stones. "And this." From within your habit, you produce half your dinner bread and a small chunk of cheese you manage to save. His hands reach eagerly for the offerings. "Thank you. Too didn't think you'd return." "Are you strong enough to travel tomorrow?" you ask. "The next village is half a day's walk west." He nods, already wrapping the blanket around his thin shoulders. "I think so. The apples helped. I just needed something." You sit on your side of the wall as he eats, telling him about the villages you know of nearby, which might offer help to an orphaned boy, which to avoid. He listens intently, occasionally asking questions between bites. There's something freeing about this conversation. An ordinary human exchange, not governed by the convent's rigid rules and hierarchies. Just two people helping each other under the stars. You're so absorbed that you don't hear the approaching footsteps until it's too late. What is this? The voice slices through the night like a blade. Mother Agnes stands at the edge of the orchard, lantern held high, her thin face twisted with outrage. Your body reacts before your mind can, leaping up, stepping away from the wall, hands clutching your habit. Mother Agnes, you stammer. I was just... Silence. She strides forward, lantern light revealing Thomas huddled with his blanket and food on the other side of the wall. Thief stealing God's food for beggars. Please, you begin. He would have died. Better he die than you dishonour the convent, she spits, grabbing your arm with surprising strength. Her fingers dig into your flesh like talons. Consorting with males in the night, stealing sacred provisions, leaving your quarters without permission? The devil works through you, girl. She drags you back towards the convent, her grip painfully tight. Behind you, Thomas calls out something, but Mother Agnes's ranting drowns it out. Your mind races, searching for explanations, excuses, anything that might lessen the coming punishment. You find nothing. The convent erupts into activity as Mother Agnes sounds the alarm bell, 3 sharp rings that echo through the stone corridors. Within minutes, bleary-eyed nuns fill the chapter house, a room used only for the most serious convent business. The abbot arrives last, his face thunderous beneath his nightcap. Mother Agnes presents her case with vicious precision, each word driving another nail into your fate. "Oh, found her at the wall," she declares to the assembled community, feeding a vagrant boy with stolen provisions, alone with him in darkness, speaking familiarly. Whispers ripple through the gathered nuns. Some look shocked, others merely tired, a few, including Beatrice and Mary, concerned. The abbot turns cold eyes upon you. Is this true? You consider lying, but what's the point? You were caught in the act. The boy was starving, you say, trying to keep your voice steady. He would have died without help. That was not your decision to make. The abbot's voice is dangerously quiet. The convent's provisions are sacred, entrusted to our stewardship by God himself. You have stolen from the Almighty. You want to argue that surely God would prefer his apples feed a starving child than rot in storage, but you've learned enough to keep this thought to yourself. Furthermore, he continues, you have broken your vow of obedience by leaving your quarters without permission. You have risked spiritual contamination through unsupervised contact with the outside world, and you have placed yourself in proximity to male temptation. This last charge almost makes you laugh. Thomas was a half-dead child, not some seductive threat to your virtue, but the abbot and Mother Agnes see sin everywhere, especially where none exists. The punishment must fit the crime, the abbot pronounces. 10 days without food? Let your soul starve with your stomach. Let God show you the real value of food. 10 days. Your heart sinks. You've barely survived 3-day fasts. 10 will likely kill you. Mother Agnes looks triumphant. Shall we begin the penance tonight, Father? At dawn, he decides. Let her contemplate her sins until then. They lock you in the small room used for solitary confinement, a windowless cell with nothing but a hard wooden bench and a chamber pot. The darkness is absolute when they take the lantern, the silence complete when they bolt the door. Alone in the pitch black, you finally allow yourself to cry. Not for the punishment, though the prospect of 10 foodless days terrifies you. You cry for the cruelty disguised as virtue, for the God they claim to serve who bears no resemblance to the one you were taught to love as a child. You cry until there are no tears left, until exhaustion pulls you into fitful sleep on the hard bench. Morning arrives with the sound of the bolt sliding back. Light floods the cell, blinding after hours of complete darkness. You shield your eyes, making out the silhouette of Sister Beatrice in the doorway. "Come," she says simply, "the chapter house." You follow her on unsteady legs, unwashed, still wearing yesterday's habit. The chapter house is again filled with the convent's residents, but there's a new face among them, a visitor, a higher-ranking priest, judging by his ornate robes. His face is handsome in a cold way, his fingers adorned with rings that catch the morning light. "This is the one?" he asks as you're brought before the assembly. "Yes, Father Bernard," the abbot confirms, caught stealing food for a vagrant, breaking cloister rules. The visiting priest, Father Bernard, studies you with unsettling intensity. And the punishment? 10 days without food, Mother Agnes supplies eagerly, beginning today. Father Bernard strokes his clean-shaven chin thoughtfully. "Harsh," he comments, "perhaps too harsh for one so new to our ways." A ripple of surprise passes through the assembly. Mother Agnes's face hardens with displeasure. "With respect, Father," she begins. "Discipline must be—" Father Bernard raises a hand, silencing her instantly. "Service to the poor is service to God. She should be pardoned." You stare at him in shock. Pardoned? You'd expected at best a reduction in your sentence, not a complete dismissal. The abbot looks displeased, but nods stiffly. Even he cannot contradict a visiting priest of higher rank. "As you wish, Father Bernard. The girl is pardoned." You nearly weep with relief. Around the room, reactions vary. Mother Agnes looks furious, Beatrice cautiously relieved, most others simply surprised. "The girl will assist me in the archive today," Father Bernard announces. "I require help cataloguing documents for the bishop." And just like that, instead of beginning a potentially fatal fast, you're assigned to help the mysterious visiting priest. The assembly disperses, Mother Agnes shooting you a venomous look as she sweeps past. The archive is a small room off the chapel containing the convent's records and important documents. Father Bernard closes the door once you're inside, leaving the two of you alone among dusty parchments and leather-bound volumes. "Thank you," you say, still hardly believing your reprieve, "for speaking for me." He smiles, but the expression doesn't reach his eyes. It seemed excessive punishment for an act of Christian charity. Something about his manner makes you uneasy, though you can't pinpoint why. Perhaps it's simply the strangeness of being alone with a man after months in the women's domain of the convent. "You'll help me organise these records," he says, gesturing to a pile of parchments. "The bishop requires a full accounting of the convent's holdings. The work is tedious but simple, sorting documents by date, placing them in proper order. Father Bernard works alongside you, occasionally asking questions about convent life, about Mother Agnes's management, about the abbot's leadership. You answer carefully, sensing political currents you don't fully understand. The day passes in this manner. You're even permitted to attend meals, a privilege you appreciate deeply, knowing how close you came to 10 days without them. By evening, the work is nearly complete, the records neatly organised for the bishop's review. "You've been helpful," Father Bernard says, as the bell rings for evening prayers. "I'm pleased I could intervene on your behalf." "It was most generous, Father," you reply, eager to return to the familiarity of the chapel and your fellow novices. He moves to the door but doesn't open it. Instead, he turns back to you, his expression shifting in a way that sends a chill down your spine. "Of course," he says softly, "you owe me." You blink, uncertain. owe you, Father. Your silence, your body. His smile now is predatory. God forgives sins, but I forgive punishments. The meaning of his words hits you like a physical blow. This wasn't mercy, it was calculation. So you've taken vows, you stammer, backing away until the shelves press against your spine. Please, Father, vows. He laughs softly. Do you think you're the first novice to face this choice? Pain or protection? Punishment or accommodation? You stare at him in horror, understanding fully now why he insisted on having you assist him alone, why he questioned you about convent politics, why he intervened in your punishment. I'll find you tonight, he whispers, finally opening the door. After the great silence begins, we'll discuss your gratitude then. He leaves you standing in the archive, trembling with fear and rage and helplessness. You saved a starving boy only to place yourself in the power of a predator in priest's robes. Evening prayers pass in a blur of panic. You search the faces of the senior nuns, wondering which ones know about Father Bernard's arrangements, which ones might help you. Mother Agnes would likely celebrate your degradation. The abbot would never believe you over a visiting dignitary. After prayers, as the novices file toward their dormitory for the night, you manage to whisper to Beatrice, Father Bernard, he expects payment for his intervention. Her face remains carefully neutral, but something flashes in her eyes. Recognition, not surprise. The North Tower, she whispers back. The door sticks. He won't check there. You don't need more explanation. When the convent settles into its nighttime silence, instead of returning to your sleeping corner, you slip away to the rarely used North Tower. The ancient wooden door indeed sticks in its frame, requiring considerable force to open and close. Inside, there's nothing but dust, a narrow window, and decades of neglect. But it's safer than your dormitory tonight. As you huddle in the darkness of the tower, hugging your knees to your chest, you wonder if this is your life now, escaping one danger only to face another, surviving by wit and luck and the secret network of women helping each other endure. You think of Thomas, hoping the food and blanket were enough to get him safely to the next village. You don't regret helping him, despite everything. Perhaps that small act of genuine Christian charity is worth whatever comes next. The night grows colder. You curl tighter into yourself, knowing that Father Bernard is likely searching for you now, his promised protection transforming into certain punishment when he fails to find you. Tomorrow will bring consequences, but tonight, at least, you're safe in this forgotten corner of stone and dust, protected by the small mercy of a sticking door and Beatrice's whispered warning. Sometimes, in this place, that's the most victory you can hope for. Morning comes with its usual brutal bell, but you're already awake. Sleep was impossible in the cold, dusty North Tower, your mind racing with fear about what awaits you. Father Bernard will not take kindly to being evaded. Mother Agnes will seize any opportunity to reinstate your punishment. You slip from the tower as the convent stirs, joining the line of black-robed figures heading toward morning prayers as if nothing happened, as if you spent the night in your assigned corner. A few curious glances come your way, but no one speaks. The great silence won't end until after prayers. You scan the chapel anxiously. Mother Agnes is there, tight-lipped and watchful. The abbot takes his usual position, but Father Bernard is nowhere to be seen. Your relief is short-lived. Halfway through the endless Latin recitations, the chapel door opens. Father Bernard enters, his face thunderous beneath a carefully composed mask of piety. His eyes find you immediately, narrowing with recognition and something darker. The rest of the service passes in mounting dread. When it ends and the nuns file out toward breakfast, you try to lose yourself in the crowd, but a firm hand grips your arm. Sister Agnes requires you in the chapter house, a senior nun informs you, her expression giving away nothing. Immediately, your stomach drops. So this is how it happens. You follow her through the cold corridors, each step feeling like a march to execution. The chapter house holds Mother Agnes, the abbot, and Father Bernard. Their faces form a tribunal of judgment, 3 variations on the theme of displeasure. "Where were you last night?" Mother Agnes demands without preamble. You consider lying, but what would be the point? "I was afraid," you say simply. Father Bernard's eyes flash. Afraid? Of what precisely? The words stick in your throat. How do you accuse a priest to his face, especially with his allies beside him? "I was concerned about the expectations following my pardon." Mother Agnes looks confused, but something passes between the abbot and Father Bernard, a look of understanding tinged with annoyance. "Father Bernard graciously intervened on your behalf," the abbot states coldly. "Your gratitude should be boundless." "My gratitude is sincere," you manage, "but my vows are sacred." Another look between the men. Father Bernard's lips curve in what might appear to be a benevolent smile to anyone who hadn't heard his whispered demands in the archive. "Such devotion to your vows is commendable," he says smoothly. "Though selective, you didn't hesitate to break rules about leaving your quarters or distributing convent resources. He has you there, and he knows it." Mother Agnes looks increasingly suspicious, her gaze darting between you and Father Bernard. "Since the girl seems confused about her obligations," the abbot says finally, "perhaps a period of reflection is in order, a day in the chapel contemplating the meaning of gratitude and obedience. It's a compromise, not the 10-day fast originally prescribed, but not complete freedom either, and crucially it keeps you in the public space of the chapel, not alone with Father Bernard." "I shall oversee her contemplation personally," Father Bernard offers. "As her spiritual advisor in this matter, your blood turns to ice." "That won't be necessary," the abbot replies, surprising you. "Mother Agnes will arrange appropriate supervision." "Is it possible?" The abbot understands exactly what's happening. His expression gives nothing away, but his intervention seems deliberate. Father Bernard's smile tightens almost imperceptibly. "As you wish, though I had hoped to discuss certain theological matters with the novice. Perhaps another time," the abbot says firmly, "when her mind is properly focused on her duties. You're dismissed to the chapel, where you'll spend the day kneeling in prayer under the watchful eye of whichever nun Mother Agnes assigns." As you leave, you catch a final glance from Father Bernard, a look that promises this matter is far from settled. Sister Hildegard from the scriptorium is your appointed guardian for the day. She sets you to copying passages about obedience from various religious texts, occasionally checking your work, but otherwise leaving you in peace. It's a far gentler punishment than you expected. During a brief moment when Hildegard steps out to speak with a passing nun, Beatrice slips into the chapel. "Are you all right?" she whispers urgently. "Did he find you?" "No," you whisper back, "but he's angry and persistent." Beatrice's face is grim. He always is. He visits twice yearly, always leaves broken girls in his wake. The confirmation that this is a pattern, that the senior nuns know about it, leaves you cold. Does no one stop him? "Who would believe us over him? He's the bishop's right hand." Her voice drops even lower. "Just avoid being alone. He leaves tomorrow after Vespers." She's gone before Hildegard returns, but her warning echoes in your mind. Just one more day to survive, one day of vigilance, of never being isolated, of sticking close to others. The day of contemplation passes slowly. Your knees ache from hours of kneeling, your hand cramps from endless copying. But these physical discomforts are nothing compared to the constant anxiety, the feeling of being hunted. Evening comes, then night. You return to the dormitory with the other novices, positioning yourself in the middle of the group rather than your usual corner. Safety in numbers. Mary gives you a questioning look but doesn't speak. The great silence has begun. Sleep comes fitfully, every small sound jolting you awake. The night stretches endlessly, the darkness playing tricks on your exhausted mind. But morning eventually arrives without incident. Perhaps you think as you join the line for morning prayers, you've escaped. Perhaps Father Bernard has decided you're not worth the trouble. Perhaps the abbot's intervention was more effective than you realized. These hopeful thoughts sustain you through morning prayers, through breakfast, through the work assignment that follows, sorting newly harvested herbs in the infirmary with Beatrice. He was asking questions about you, Beatrice murmurs as you work side by side. To the younger nuns, which ones were your friends? Where you go during free... Civil War soldiers were more likely to die from diarrhea than from bullets. No, really. The disease killed 44,000 Union soldiers. That's the equivalent of 10 entire Gettysburg battles, and that was just one of the many diseases they faced. Hey, quick thing before we start. If you actually listen to these regularly, hit like or subscribe. I always wonder where everyone's at, so comment your city and what time it is. Weird to think some of you are having breakfast in London while I'm recording this at night here in the States. Alright, tonight it's the American Civil War, but before we go anywhere, get comfortable. Like, actually comfortable. Pillows good? Blanket situation handled? Perfect. Trust me on this one. Your eyes open to early morning light filtering through canvas. April 1863, Union Army, somewhere in Pennsylvania. First thing you notice is the straw poking through your thin blanket, jabbing into your back like tiny daggers. The wool blanket you're wrapped in scratches your skin and smells like wet dog mixed with sweat, not like your plush mattress at home. What pulls you fully awake is the sound, a bugle blaring reveille, hundreds of men coughing, someone nearby groaning with stomach cramps. That's becoming a familiar sound in camp, too familiar. Get up, Fletcher captain's coming through. You're Thomas Fletcher, 16 years old, though your enlistment papers say 18. You've been in the Union Army for exactly 3 weeks, and every morning you wake up wondering what the hell you were thinking. Back on your family's farm in western Pennsylvania, this time of morning meant feeding animals and helping Ma with breakfast. Now it means rushing to get dressed before the officers come through, trying to find clean water to wash your face, and praying your stomach doesn't betray you like it did yesterday. I swear to God, says your tent mate Wilkins, a factory worker from Philadelphia, if I have to dig another latrine today, I'm deserting. He doesn't mean it, not really, but the sentiment is there. The ground outside is mud. Not regular mud, this special kind of mud made by thousands of men living in close quarters with poor drainage. It's mixed with horse manure, human waste that didn't make it to the latrines, and whatever else has been discarded. And the smell? Jesus. I can't even describe it properly. It was bad. Like gag reflex bad. You'd probably need to breathe through your mouth. You know what's wild? 3 weeks ago, you were so excited to join. You'd heard Lincoln's call for volunteers, listened to the recruiter talk about glory and saving the Union, watched the town celebrate as you and 5 other boys signed up. Your ma cried, but your pa looked proud. Said you were doing what needed doing. Nobody told you about the mud, or the food, or the dysentery. Fletcher uniform inspection in 10 minutes. Get your ass moving. That's Sergeant Miller, former schoolteacher from Boston, seems to enjoy making your life miserable. You stumble out of your tent into the chaos of camp. 15,000 men all doing the same thing at once creates a special kind of madness. The camp stretches for miles, tents arranged in neat rows that somehow still look messy, campfires sending smoke into the morning air, men in various states of dress rushing about. Your stomach growls. Breakfast will be hardtack and salt pork, if you're lucky. Hardtack is basically a brick made of flour that could crack your teeth if you're not careful. Most guys soak it in coffee to soften it up. Problem is, sometimes that reveals the weevils living inside. Extra protein, the veterans joke. You're not laughing yet. Look alive, boys. It's Corporal Jenkins, looking way too chipper for this hour. Word is we're moving out tomorrow, heading south. The words send a jolt through you. South means closer to battle. You enlisted to fight, sure, but the reality of it is starting to sink in. They say Lee's army is on the move, Jenkins continues, lowering his voice like he's sharing state secrets. Could be the big one. William, the quiet farmer's son from Ohio who sleeps on your other side, looks up from lacing his boots. My pa says every battle is the big one until the next one comes along. Smart kid, William, barely older than you, but sometimes seems like he's carrying the wisdom of someone 3 times his age. His hands are permanently stained with dirt from the farm, much like yours. The morning routine is mind-numbing but necessary. Roll call, breakfast, more drilling, cleaning your rifle until you can see your reflection in the metal. You fired it exactly twice during training. Some of the boys had never held a gun before enlisting. "You seen Johnson this morning?" asks Wilkins, chewing on hardtack that makes an audible crunch with each bite. "Infirmary," says William quietly. "Fever got worse in the night." A moment of silence falls between you. 3 men from your company have already died of disease, and you haven't even seen battle yet. The infirmary tent is a place of nightmares, men moaning in pain, the smell of infected wounds and body odour, harried doctors moving from cot to cot with barely a glance at each patient. After breakfast, which is a generous way of describing what you just ate, it's drill time. 2 hours of marching back and forth across a muddy field, practicing formations that supposedly matter in battle. Forward march, right face, about face, load in 9 times, present arms. Your drill instructor is a weather-beaten man named Corporal Haynes who fought in the Mexican War. His voice carries across the field like thunder. "You call that a formation. My dead grandmother could make a straighter line again. The rifle is heavy. That's the thing nobody tells you. The Springfield model 1861 weighs about 10 pounds, which doesn't sound like much until you're holding it at shoulder arms for an hour. Your muscles burn. Sweat trickles down your back despite the cool spring air. But Haynes keeps pushing. "When you meet Johnny Reb on the battlefield, you'll thank me. Loading your rifle needs to be instinct. You hesitate, you die. You try not to think about the dying part." Mid-morning brings a different kind of drill, bayonet practice, charging at straw dummies tied to posts, stabbing and slashing with a foot-long blade attached to your rifle. The thought of driving this into another human being makes your stomach turn, but you push the feeling down. This is what you signed up for. "Put your weight into it, Fletcher," Haynes barks. "They won't just stand there and let you poke 'em." By noon, your uniform is soaked through with sweat and your hands are blistered. There's a brief respite for a meal that's nearly identical to breakfast, and then it's equipment inspection. The sergeant walks down the line, examining each soldier's kit. Rifle, bayonet, cartridge box, cat pouch, haversack, canteen, blanket, roll. Everything must be in place, clean as possible given the circumstances. "Your rifle's filthy, Thompson," he says to the man next to you. "Clean it again." When he reaches you, he pauses. "Boots coming apart, Fletcher. See the quartermaster after this." You glance down. Sure enough, the sole of your right boot is separating from the upper. Great. The quartermaster is notoriously stingy with new equipment. "Stitch it together," he'll probably say. "We're not made of boots." After inspection comes fatigue duty, the Army's term for chores. Today, your squad is assigned to dig new latrines. The old ones are filling up fast and the smell is becoming unbearable even by camp standards. So you spend 2 hours digging trenches in the hard ground, taking turns with worn shovels. "You know what my father told me before I left," says Wilkins, pausing to wipe sweat from his brow. "He said, 'Son, in the army you'll see the best and worst of men.' He didn't mention I'd be smelling the worst too." That gets a laugh from the group. Humour, however crude, is your collective shield against the reality of your situation. By late afternoon, your hands are raw and your back aches, but the new latrines are dug. You head to the creek that runs along the edge of camp to wash up. The water is cold and not particularly clean, too many men using it upstream, but it's better than nothing. As you're scrubbing dirt from your hands, William appears beside you. "Letter call came while we were digging," he says, holding out an envelope. "This one's for you." Your heart leaps. Mail from home is the most precious thing in camp. You dry your hands on your trousers and take the letter carefully. Your mother's handwriting. You'll save it for tonight, something to look forward to. "Any for you?" you ask William. He shakes his head. "Not today." Dinner is beans and salt pork, with coffee so weak it's practically brown water, but you eat every bite. One thing the army has taught you: never skip a meal. You never know when the next one is coming. As the sun begins to set, an unusual excitement runs through the camp. A travelling photographer has arrived and set up his equipment near the officers' tents. For 25 cents, soldiers can have their portrait taken to send home. "Should we do it?" Wilkins asks, genuinely excited for the first time in days. You check your meagre funds. 25 cents is a lot, nearly half of what you have left from your last pay. But the thought of sending your portrait home to your mother— "Let's do it," you decide. The line is long, but you wait patiently. When your turn comes, the photographer, a thin, nervous man with ink-stained fingers, positions you in front of a plain backdrop. "Chin up. Look brave," he instructs. You try your best to look like a soldier, not a frightened farm boy. The flash powder ignites with a bright burst and acrid smoke. That's it. In 2 weeks, if you're lucky, your mother will receive a tintype of her son in uniform. As darkness falls, campfires flicker to life across the vast encampment. Your company gathers around one, the familiar faces illuminated by the dancing flames. Someone has a harmonica and plays a mournful rendition of "Home Sweet Home" that makes your chest tight with longing. Now feels like the right time to read your letter. You carefully open the envelope, preserving it for a reply. Your mother's words leap off the page. News of home, how your father's managing the farm without you, your sister's new baby, you're an uncle now, questions about whether you're eating enough and staying warm. There's no mention of the war itself, as if by not acknowledging it, she can keep you safe. The letter ends with a pressed wildflower from the meadow behind your house. The sight of it nearly undoes you. "Good news?" asks William, noticing your expression. "I'm an uncle," you manage, carefully tucking the flower back into the envelope. Around the fire, men share bits of news from their own letters, creating a patchwork map of home across the northern states. Stories of harvests and church socials and town gossips feel like dispatches from another world, but the conversation inevitably turns to tomorrow's march, and what might lie beyond it. "My cousin was at Bull Run," says Thompson, poking at the fire with a stick. "Said it was pure chaos. Men running in every direction, couldn't tell friend from foe through the smoke." "My brother fought at Shiloh," another soldier adds. "Said the dead were so thick on the ground you couldn't walk without stepping on somebody." You listen silently, fear coiling in your stomach. These are the stories they don't print in newspapers, that recruiters don't tell wide-eyed boys signing their names. Enough of that talk. Jenkins interrupts. We'll face what comes when it comes. No use borrowing trouble. Wise words, but cold comfort as you return to your tent for the night. The canvas structure seems flimsy protection against what awaits you in the days ahead. You settle onto your bedroll, the straw crackling beneath you. Outside, the sounds of camp gradually quiet, the occasional laugh about coughing, the distant neigh of horses. Above the tent, through a small gap in the canvas, you can see stars dotting the night sky. The same stars shine over your family's farm, over the Confederate camps somewhere to the south, over a country tearing itself apart. Sleep comes fitfully, as it always does in camp. Your dreams are a confusion of home and war, familiar faces and nameless fears. Tomorrow, you march toward whatever waits beyond the horizon. What you don't know yet is that this relatively comfortable camp life, despite its hardships, will soon seem like luxury. The mud, the poor food, the endless drilling, all of it preparing you for something much worse. But for now, you sleep, rifle within arm's reach, surrounded by men who were strangers 3 weeks ago and now know your snoring patterns. In the morning, the bugle will wake you again and the next chapter of your war will begin. The bugle sounds before dawn, jerking you from what little sleep you manage to get. Outside your tent, the camp is already stirring, an anthill of activity as 15,000 men prepare to march. Rise and shine, princess, Wilkins says, already pulling on his boots. Today's the day we earn our glory. Or our coffins, William mutters, but only you hear him. Breakfast is hardtack and lukewarm coffee. You've learned to pound the hardtack into crumbs and mix it with coffee, creating a grey paste that's easier to swallow than trying to bite the rock-hard biscuit. Tastes like wet cardboard, but it fills the stomach. By first light, you're standing in formation with your company. The morning air is crisp, mist hanging low over the fields. Captain Hayes paces in front of the line, his boots polished despite the mud. He's young for a captain, maybe 25, with a neat moustache and eyes that have already seen too much. Men, he says, voice carrying across the silent ranks. We march south today to join the main army, 10 miles at least. Light packs, full canteens. Any man who falls out will answer to me personally. 10 miles doesn't sound too bad. Back home, you'd walk that far, just checking fences. But that was without a 10-pound rifle, 40 rounds of ammunition, a bayonet, canteen, haversack, and everything else the army deems necessary. The regiment moves out with surprising order, each company filing into place on the road. From your position, you can see the column stretching ahead and behind, thousands of men in blue, a giant centipede winding through the countryside. The early sun glints off rifle barrels and brass buttons. Flags snap in the breeze. It would be beautiful if it wasn't terrifying. You know what's crazy, Wilkins says, as you settle into the marching rhythm. More people in this column than live in my entire hometown. He's right. It's hard to wrap your head around. All these men from farms and factories and shops across the Union, now moving as one massive organism toward whatever waits ahead. The first hour passes easily enough. The road is decent, spirits are high, and some men even sing as they march. John Brown's body echoes up and down the line. You join in at the chorus, feeling a part of something bigger than yourself. Then the road turns to mud. Recent rains have transformed the route into a brown soup that sucks at your boots with every step. What was a steady march becomes a slog. The singing dies away, replaced by curses and laboured breathing. Your pack straps dig into your shoulders. Each step requires extra effort to pull your foot from the mire. This, Wilkins pants beside you, is bullshit. 2 hours in, and the first men begin to fall out. Not many, mostly the obviously sick or elderly, but enough to notice the gaps forming in the column. An officer on horseback rides alongside, shouting encouragement that sounds more like threats. Keep moving, any man stopping will face court-martial. By noon, your uniform is soaked with sweat despite the cool spring air. Your feet are screaming, blisters forming where your damp socks rub against poorly fitted boots. The column halts briefly beside a stream, officers allowing 15 minutes to refill canteens and relieve yourselves. You collapse on a patch of grass, legs trembling with fatigue. William sits beside you, face pale beneath a layer of road dust. Neither of you speaks, saving energy for what's ahead. Wilkins, somehow still energetic, drops down beside you and pulls off his boots. First rule of marching, he says, inspecting his feet. Take care of these, or you're finished. He produces a small tin of grease from his pocket and begins rubbing it on the raw spots. Got this from an old Mex War veteran. Sheep fat mixed with beeswax. Stops the rubbing. He offers you the tin. The grease smells rancid, but you apply it gratefully to your own blistered heels. It's disgusting, but feels instantly better. How far you reckon we've come? William asks, accepting the tin next. Wilkins squints at the sun. 5-6 miles, maybe. Halfway there, if the captain was telling the truth. The thought isn't comforting. The 15-minute rest ends too quickly. Back on your feet, back in formation, back to putting one foot in front of the other. The road climbs now, winding up a gentle hill that feels like a mountain to your tired legs. As you crest the rise, something new appears ahead. Wagons, dozens of them coming toward the column. Ambulance wagons painted white with red crosses. The column parts to let them pass, and that's when you get your first real look at war. The wagons are packed with wounded men. Some sit upright, bandages around heads or arms, eyes vacant. Others lie flat, moaning with each bump in the road. The worst are ominously still, covered with blankets despite the warm afternoon. Jesus Christ, Wilkins whispers, his usual humour gone. A soldier in a blood-stained uniform sits at the edge of one wagon, missing an arm below the elbow. His remaining hand clutches a Bible. He makes eye contact with you as the wagon passes, and you see something in his expression that chills you. Not pain, but a strange distance, as if he's looking at you from across an unbridgeable chasm. The wagons keep coming. 10, 20, 30. How many men? Hundreds, at least, all headed north, away from wherever you're marching toward. That's the 12th Massachusetts, someone in the ranks says. They got hit bad at Chancellorsville. The name means nothing to you now, but soon it will join the growing lexicon of battle names that every soldier knows, places where men died in droves. The column marches on, but the mood has changed. The reality of what awaits has been made flesh in those broken bodies. Conversation dies away. Even the officers ride more quietly. By late afternoon, your world has narrowed to the few feet of road ahead and the endless cycle of placing one foot before the other. Your shoulders burn from the weight of your gear. Your throat is parched despite careful sips from your canteen. Hunger gnaws at your belly. When the order finally comes to make camp, it's like a reprieve from execution. The regiment files off the road into a large meadow, already filling with other units. Tents go up with practiced efficiency, despite exhausted hands. Fires flicker to life as darkness falls. You sit with your company, too tired to even complain, watching the coffee boil in the shared pot. Your feet throb inside your boots, but you're afraid to remove them, not sure you can get them back on over your swollen feet. 10 miles, the captain said. Wilkins groans, lying flat on his back. That was 15 if it was a step. 16, corrects a new voice. You look up to see a lean, weathered soldier standing at the edge of your firelight. He's older, 30 at least, with a sergeant's stripes and a cavalry trooper's unmistakable bow-legged stance. "Saw you boys coming in," he says, squatting down beside your fire. "First big march?" You nod, too tired for words. He chuckles. "Gets easier. Sort of." He extends a hand. "Sergeant Michael Reeves, 8th Pennsylvania Cavalry." "You been fighting long?" William asks after introductions. Reeves nods, accepting a cup of coffee from Wilkins. "Since 61, Bull Run, Peninsula Campaign, Antietam, Fredericksburg." He lists the battles like stops on a familiar road. "What's it like?" you hear yourself ask. "The fighting, I mean." Reeves studies you over the rim of his cup. His eyes are green, you notice, but somehow darker than any eyes you've seen. "Ain't like anything they tell you," he says finally. "Ain't glorious, ain't noble. It's loud and it's confusing and it's..." He pauses. "It's men trying to kill each other is what it is." He must see the fear in your faces because his expression softens slightly. "Look, you're in a good outfit. 6th Corps has solid leadership. Stay together, do what your officers tell you, and most of you will make it through. Most, not all." The word hangs in the air. "Any of you boys know how to play poker?" Reeves asks, changing the subject. None of you do, but he teaches you the basics, using pebbles for chips. For an hour, you forget your aching feet and the long march ahead as you learn flushes and straights and full houses. Reeves wins most hands, but lets each of you take a victory too. As the game winds down, he becomes reflective. "Been at this 2 years now," he says, shuffling the worn cards with practiced ease. "Seen things I hope you boys never do. But I'll tell you this, it ain't the Rebs you need to fear most out here." "What then?" asks William. "Yourself," Reeves says simply. "Fear will kill you faster than any bullet. Man gets scared enough, he freezes up, or he runs. Either way, he's done for." He deals another hand, then continues. "But there's something worse than fear out here." You wait for him to continue, not sure you want to hear it. "Indifference," he says. "Seen it happen to good men. They stop caring, stop seeing the dead as people, start thinking of everything as just something to get through." He taps the deck. "That's when you lose something you don't get back." The conversation turns sombre after that. Reeves bids you good night, promising to look for you when the dance starts, as he puts it. Sleep comes quickly, despite the hard ground. Your body is too exhausted to care about comfort, but sometime in the dead of night you wake suddenly, unsure why. Then you hear it, screaming. Not battle cries or calls for help, but the terrible sound of a man trapped in his own mind. "Night terrors," William whispers beside you. "My uncle got 'em after the Mex War. Somewhere in the vast encampment, a soldier is reliving horrors in his sleep. The screams eventually stop, but sleep is harder to find afterward. Dawn arrives with the inevitable bugle. Your body protests every movement, muscles stiff from yesterday's march, but there's no choice. The army moves on with or without you. Breakfast is meagre. The supply wagons are running behind," the quartermaster explains. "You divide hardtack and share coffee, everyone getting less than they need. As your company forms up, you notice gaps in the ranks. Some men who started yesterday aren't here today, fallen out, sent to the ambulance wagons, or simply disappeared in the night. Desertion is rarely mentioned, but everyone knows it happens." The second day's march begins like the first, but the pace seems slower. Men are already tired, feet already blistered. The road is crowded now with artillery batteries, supply wagons and cavalry scouts moving back and forth along the column. Around mid-morning, a new sound reaches your ears, a distant rumble like summer thunder, but in a cloudless sky. Artillery, says an older private named Davis. Big guns, 15-20 miles south. A murmur passes through the ranks. Battle somewhere ahead. The abstract suddenly becomes concrete. Your mouth goes dry despite the water in your canteen. The column presses on, the distant bombardment a constant reminder of your destination. The officers look more serious now, conferring in hushed voices as they ride alongside. By noon, new sights appear along the roadside, evidence that the war has passed this way before. A chimney standing alone, the house it belonged to now ashes and blackened timbers, fields trampled by thousands of boots and hooves, an abandoned cannon, its barrel burst from overuse. "Welcome to Virginia, boys," Wilkins says grimly. You're in the south now, enemy territory, though this part has changed hands so many times it's hard to say who it belongs to anymore. The few civilians you see watch from doorways with expressionless faces, neither welcoming nor hostile, just tired. A mile further, you pass something that stops conversations mid-sentence. A tree beside the road, and from one sturdy branch, a noose. It swings empty in the breeze, but the message is clear. Someone died here, whether deserter, spy, or civilian, impossible to say. The march continues through the afternoon, your feet moving automatically now, mind somewhere far away. You think of home, of your mother's cooking, of the soft bed waiting in a farmhouse hundreds of miles north. The distance feels insurmountable. Late in the day, rain begins to fall. A gentle shower at first, then a steady downpour that soaks through your uniform in minutes. Water drips from your cap into your eyes. Your already blistered feet now squish with each step, the wet leather of your boots rubbing raw skin. When camp is finally made, it's in a muddy field already churned by previous regiments. No fires tonight, the wood is too wet, and smoke might give away positions to enemy scouts. Cold rations, eaten in the rain, huddled under whatever shelter you can find. Your tent, pitched hastily in the downpour, leaks from a dozen places. You, Wilkins, and William sit in miserable silence, water pooling around your legs, too wet and tired to even complain. "My sister got married last Sunday," William says suddenly, staring at nothing. "Wrote me about it last month, said she wished I could be there to see it." The random statement hangs in the damp air, a reminder of the normal lives continuing elsewhere, oblivious to your current misery. "My girl's probably walking out with Jimmy Porter by now," Wilkins adds. "Told her not to wait, but she promised she would." You think of your own family, wondering what they're doing at this moment. Sitting down to dinner, perhaps. Your empty chair at the table, your father saying grace, maybe asking God to watch over his son. "Why'd you join up?" you ask Wilkins, realising you've never discussed it. He's quite so long, you think he hasn't heard. Finally, "Factory where I worked shut down. Army pays regular, at least." A pause. "You?" The truth is complicated. Patriotism, yes. Adventure, certainly. But mostly because everyone expected it. Because saying no seemed harder than saying yes. "Seemed like the right thing," is all you say. William nods, as if this makes perfect sense. "My older brother died at Antietam," he says softly. "Felt like I owed it to him." The rain drums on the canvas above. Somewhere in the vast camp, a harmonica plays a melancholy tune that seems to capture everything you're feeling. Sleep comes in fits and starts, your body too uncomfortable for true rest. Twice you wake to roll away from water dripping directly on your face. Morning arrives grey and drizzly. The march resumes, somehow even more miserable than before. The mud is deeper, the fatigue more profound, the muscles more sore. But something new enters the equation today. Anticipation. The artillery sounds are closer now, no longer distant rumbles but distinct booms that occasionally shake the ground. Cavalry couriers gallop past the column with increasing frequency, carrying dispatches to and from the front. You're close now, close to whatever awaits. Around midday, the column halts more permanently than the usual short breaks. Officers ride back and forth, conferring and pointing. The men use the opportunity to rest, though the air of tension prevents true relaxation. "What's happening?" William asks, though none of you have answers. An hour passes before Captain Hayes approaches your company. His uniform is mud-splattered, but his voice is steady. "We'll be making camp here," he announces. "The main Union army is deployed 3 miles ahead. We join them tomorrow morning." The news sweeps through the ranks like wildfire. Tomorrow you might see battle. As tents are raised and fires lit, rumours fly faster than cavalry scouts. The Confederate army is just beyond that ridge. No, they're retreating toward Richmond. Lee himself is commanding the Southern forces. No, he's miles away. The fighting will be minimal. No, it will be the biggest battle of the war. In this storm of speculation, Sergeant Reeves appears at your campfire again. He looks different today. Alert, focused, his cavalry uniform crisp despite the conditions. "Thought I'd find you boys here," he says, declining coffee this time. "Wanted to check in before tomorrow." "What's really happening?" Wilkins asks directly. Reeves glances around, then lowers his voice. "Confederate forces are dug in along a creek about 4 miles south. Good defensive position. Our boys have been probing their lines since yesterday, looking for weakness." "Will we attack?" you ask, your mouth suddenly dry. "Or be attacked," Reeves says with a shrug. "That's for the generals to decide. Either way, your regiment will likely see action." He stands to leave, then hesitates. "Listen," he says, looking at each of you in turn. "First time under fire there's no preparing for it. Just remember your training. Load, aim, fire, load, aim, fire. Don't think beyond that." As darkness falls, an unusual quiet settles over the camp. Men write letters home by firelight, clean their weapons for the dozenth time, or simply sit in contemplation. A chaplain moves among the companies, offering prayers and communion to those who want it. You find yourself unable to write the letter you've been composing in your head all day. What do you say when tomorrow might be your last day on Earth? What words can possibly bridge that gap? In the end, you write simply, "Dear Ma and Pa, we've marched to Virginia. I'm well. Don't worry. I'll write again when I can. Your loving son, Thomas." It feels inadequate, but it will have to do. You seal the envelope and give it to the company mail orderly, who promises to send it north with the next courier. The night deepens. Fires burn low. Around one nearby, a group of veterans from another regiment are sharing stories, not of battles, as you might expect, but of strange occurrences and superstitions. "Swear on my mother's Bible," one bearded soldier is saying as you approach their circle. "Saw a man at Fredericksburg take 7 bullets, center mass, and walk away without a scratch. Had a Bible in his breast pocket, stopped the first one, and the rest just went around him somehow." Another veteran snorts. "That's nothing. We had a fella in our company, night before Antietam, dreamed he saw his own grave with his name on it. Next day, first volley, bullet right through the heart. You listen, both fascinated and disturbed. These are the tales of the war that don't make it into newspapers or official reports." "You know what keeps you alive out there?" asks a third soldier, a sergeant with an empty sleeve pinned up. "Not luck, not skill. It's having something to live for. Man wants to see home again bad enough. Somehow the bullets miss him." "Or having something worth dying for," adds another quietly. You return to your own fire thoughtful. Wilkins is cleaning his rifle again, though it's already immaculate. William stares into the flames, saying nothing. None of you mentions tomorrow. As you settle onto your bedroll for what might be your last peaceful night, you find yourself hyper-aware of everything. The scratch of wool blankets, distant laughter from another campfire, the occasional whinny of horses. Life, in all its messy detail, suddenly precious. Sleep, when it finally comes, is surprisingly deep. Your exhausted body overrides your anxious mind, and in the black hours before dawn, the bugle calls you to what waits ahead. The bugle tears through darkness, jerking you from sleep. For a moment, disorientation grips you. Where are you? Then reality crashes back. Virginia, the army. Today, around you, the camp erupts into activity. Men stumbling from tents, officers shouting orders, the clatter of equipment being gathered in the pre-dawn gloom. No time for proper breakfast, just hardtack stuffed into pockets and cold coffee gulped down between preparations. Captain Hayes moves through the company, his face grim. Full battle gear, 60 rounds of ammunition per man. Fill your canteens completely. Your hands shake slightly as you prepare. Loading your cartridge box feels different today. Each paper-wrapped bullet might soon be fired at another human being, or might save your life. The weight of your equipment, normally annoying, now feels reassuring, especially the bayonet. As the eastern sky lightens to grey, your regiment forms up with the others of your brigade. No drums this morning, no bands playing, just thousands of men standing silently in formation, breath fogging in the cool air. Colonel Montgomery, your regimental commander, rides to the front. Even from your position in the ranks, you can see his face is deadly serious. "Men of the 140th Pennsylvania," his voice carries over the quiet ranks. "Today we join the Army of the Potomac in battle against Confederate forces. You will conduct yourselves with courage and discipline. Remember your training. Remember why we fight. For the Union. For freedom." The speech is brief, lacking the fiery patriotism of recruitment rallies. This is different. This is real. The regiment moves out as dawn breaks, marching in column along a narrow country road. After about an hour, you notice a change in the surroundings. Fence rails torn down for firewood, trees splintered by artillery, deep ruts in the road from gun carriages, the signs of armies. Then you hear it. Not the distant rumble of yesterday, but actual gunfire. Sharp cracks of rifles, the heavier boom of artillery. It's still some distance away, but unmistakable now. Wilkins glances at you, sweat already beading on his forehead despite the cool morning. "Guess they started without us." No one laughs. Humour feels strange now, out of place. The column quickens its pace. Messages pass up and down the line of officers. Ahead, you can see a ridge where other Union regiments are already deployed. Blue lines against the green hillside. "That's our position," Captain Hayes announces, pointing to an open field near the centre of the ridge. "We're reinforcing the line. As your regiment approaches, the sounds of battle grow louder. You can now distinguish individual volleys, the synchronized crash of hundreds of rifles firing at once. The ground occasionally trembles from artillery. Your mouth is desert dry despite water from your canteen. Your bowels feel loose. Veterans say it happens to everyone before battle, the body preparing to shed weight for flight or fight. Some men stop to relieve themselves at the roadside, ignoring the usual camp modesty. "Jesus," William whispers beside you. "Look at that." Beyond the ridge, smoke hangs over the distant tree line, white puffs from artillery mixed with the darker smoke of rifle fire. Through gaps in the smoke, you can see flashes of movement, men advancing, retreating, or falling. Colonel Montgomery halts the regiment at the base of the ridge. Fix bayonets. The sound of steel blades clicking onto 1,500 rifle barrels sends a chill through you. This isn't drill anymore. You climb the ridge in line of battle, shoulder to shoulder with the men of your company, other companies ahead and behind. Every step brings the sounds of conflict closer, louder. At the crest, you get your first clear view of the battlefield below. It's nothing like you imagined. A creek runs through a shallow valley bordered by woods on the far side. Between the ridge where you stand and that creek